It was a grim day in the city as I, Victor Cupid, private detective, sat alone in my office. I say it was grim because on TV they preempted my favorite figure skating competition for a politician's political speech. I hate election season, especially presidential elections, which drag on longer than those epic poems they made us read in high school. However, my misery was assuaged by the arrival, like Venus rising from the waves, of every man's erotic fantasy and my erotic reality, the beautiful and fantastically intelligent Sena Spoigals. "Hello, Kotik," she said with her usual Slavic pet name for me. "I let myself in as your secretary isn't here, as usual." I nodded. "She's out with another bout of her chronic drama mania." "Didn't she have that last week?" "No, last week she had to stay home with her daughter, who had been hit with an attack of her chronic anexophilia." "Do you know what those are, Kotik?" "Well, surely they're, well, what do you expect? The sign on the door says private detective, not internal medicine." Sena smiled and whipped out a little volume from her pocketbook and consulted it. "Ah, yes, Dramamania, the compulsive urge to constantly go on road trips." It is?" She turned to another page. "Anexophilia, the tendency, especially common among young people, to fall in love with unworthy jerks." What is that book?" She handed it to me. "The Immigrant's Guide to Progressive English Vocabulary" by H. Kaplan. "Now that I am a citizen of this fair country, I want to improve my English vocabulary." But look at these words," I said as I leafed through the book. "Even I don't understand them. Dodecahedron? Phenakistoscope? Sesquipedalian?" "It's very simple, Kotik. A dodecahedron is a three-dimensional 12-sided figure. A phenakistoscope is an early 19th century novelty toy that was actually the first device ever invented to show motion pictures. And sesquipedalian, oh, I love that one. Sesquipedalian is a very long word meaning pertaining to a very long word. It also has a big brother, hippopotamonstrous sesquipedalian, which is a very, very, very long word, which means pertaining to a very, very, very long word. I sighed and handed the book back to her. "It's all Greek to me." "I'm not learning Greek. I'm learning English, and some very useful English too. And these words are not all long and difficult. Take grok, for example. Grok, a very simple 5-letter word that means to stand silently watching people eating and hoping against hope to be asked to join them." I was feeling slightly giddy at this point. Apparently, if the words weren't long, the definitions were. "But nobody even uses these words," I complained. "They're not in people's lexicon." "All the more reason to know them," Sena retorted. "Who wants to have just the same old lexicon as everyone else?" Just then there was a knock at the door. "Come in, through the ingress." She was determined to show off. Into the office came a well-dressed but somewhat scruffy-looking, yet rather familiar-looking man. "Mr. Cupid," he said, "I am Hans Sagensen, the political activist and people's advocate. I need your help. I'm running for president, and you're not going to give a speech, are you?" No, but my main opponent, Governor Frederick Fudelminster, is giving a big one this weekend at his big annual outdoor fundraising event, Governor Fred's Famous Finger Food Fry, where he's going to try to convince everyone to vote for him instead of me." "But Mr. Sagensen," said Sena, "why would they vote for him over you? You are the most popular politician in the country. You have a long and distinguished career of unwavering honesty and devotion to the welfare of all the people. Hans sighed. I'm afraid that doesn't make up for Governor Fred's long and distinguished career of unwavering kissing up to the party bosses and devotion to the big money donors. Governor Fred, I snarled. How pretentious can you get? Strip away all that phony, shucks folksiness, and he's corrupt as the devil's bookmaker. And I've heard his speeches. They're incomprehensible word salads with high-calorie platitude dressing. Yet everyone talks about how intelligently he talks. I'm afraid many voters think that a politician must be intelligent if they don't understand him, Hans observed. Has anyone ever tried dissecting these speeches of his, Sena said, figure out what he's really saying? What are you driving at, I said. Are you going to suggest we make use of that crazy dictionary of yours? My dear Kotik, I've already proven its usefulness by pointing out the deceptive words your secretary has been using. If we can look up all the words in his word salads and figure out what he's really saying, we can expose him for the fraud he actually is. If nothing else, one very good reason for knowing rare and obscure words is so we can call out other people who employ rare and obscure words for the purpose of deceit and obfuscation. Sena's logic, as irresistible as her smile, persuaded me. I turned to Hans. You can count on us, sir. We'll see you this weekend at the pretentious politicking. I was not in a good mood, as I, Victor Cupid, private detective, and my partner, both in business and in extreme pleasure, Sena Spoigals, arrived at the decadent outdoor political shindig. Our client, the presidential candidate Hans Sagensen, had enlisted our aid to expose the two-faced phoniness of his opponent, Frederick Fudelminster, also known as Governor Fred, to make him sound like a more folksy regular guy, even though he owns 2 mansions and 3 yachts. Our plan hinged on Sena's newest favorite book, The Immigrant's Guide to Progressive English Vocabulary by H. Kaplan. Our plan was to expose the true meaning of the hazy and convoluted speech that Governor Fred was going to give the crowd today, using this field guide to hazy and convoluted words. These words are not hazy and convoluted, Kotik, she told me for the 8,000th time. It's true I've developed a certain fascination for the more hippopotamonstrous sesquipedalian words in the book, by which she meant that she was fond of the gratuitously long words in the book. Hippopotamonstrous sesquipedalian is itself a hippopotamonstrous sesquipedalian word. I promise you, most of the words in the book are very useful and relevant. In fact, here's a few that I know will interest you. Ecdesias, meaning a woman who slowly takes off her clothes to music in front of an audience. You mean a stripper? No, said Sena patiently. We're not talking about someone who randomly rises in compromising positions and calls it dancing. An ecdesiast is refined, elegant, a striptease artist with the emphasis on the artiste. You sound like you know wherever you speak. Hey, it's one way to work your way through college. And then there's crudel, which means to cuddle up closely, and canoodle, to tenderly caress. Yes, those do sound like very interesting words. As usual, the more sultry Sena's voice got, the more sweaty I got. Fortunately, at that moment, I was doused by a cold shower in the form of an announcement on the overly loud speakers. Good afternoon, fellow patriots, and welcome to Governor Fred's famous finger food fry. Governor Fred's famous finger food fry. I like how it says in the title that it's famous. Well, said a wry voice behind us, He has to point it out because it's so famous, most people don't know it is. It was our client, Hans Sagensen. Thanks for coming today. I hope our plan to expose Governor Fred will be successful today. Just before we could respond, Governor Fred himself sidled up and rudely butted in. Ah, Hans Sagensen, he said, with a wholly insincere slap on his back. I keep forgetting you're still alive, you old coot. How could you forget he's alive? You're running against him. It's almost as if she's from another planet where snarky sarcasm isn't a thing. Of course I'm running against him. I'm not some flighty pipe dreamer. I'm a realistic leader with a realistic agenda. A bunch of tiny, half-hearted tweaks at a time when the suffering of the people calls for monumental change to a corrupt system. Ah, Hans, you're so adorable. Governor Fred gave a smug smirk that even a Quaker would be tempted to punch. You think the world should be a sunshine and rainbow-filled paradise where everyone is treated fairly and everyone lives a fulfilling and meaningful life. But this is the real world, my friend, with winners and losers. And soon I will be the ultimate winner. And you, well, I suppose you'll always have supporters and fans among those naive activists who naively support you. You haven't won this election yet, I growled. Oh, yes, I have. Look at this crowd. They adore me and they vote. Well, time for my big speech soon. Enjoy the finger foods. And he swaggered off. The nerve of him, said Sena. The way he talks about you, Hans. I don't care about myself. It's the way he talks about my supporters. They're good, honest people who have been let down by a corrupt system that I want to change for the better. So have his supporters too, of course, but they've let themselves be hoodwinked by all this smooth talk. They positively idolize him. I know, it's a thing I hate most about politics, when voters let the issues that really matter take a back seat to worshiping individual politicians. A little bit too much like children getting all excited about seeing Donald Duck or Dopey at Disneyland. Says the man who's had a lifelong crush on Mary Poppins, Sena observed unnecessarily. But you're right, Petite. Nothing will change for the better until we learn to stop putting politicians on pedestals and hold all our leaders accountable, even the ones who purport to be on our side of the issues. And we can help with that. Before this day is out, we, with the help of dear old Mr. Kaplan, will expose Governor Fred's true colors. And then they will all come running back to you, Hans, not just to vote for you, but also to beg for your forgiveness. I promise you, by every hippopotamonstrous sesquipedalian bird that I hold dear. The heat of the sun and the smell of overly seasoned chicken rained down on me, Victor Cupid, private detective, and my girlfriend, Sena, as we waited at Governor Fred's famous finger food fry, a big fundraiser for the smugly corrupt politician who goes by that moniker. He was running for president against our client, Hans Sagensen, a much more honest and genuine man of the people, even though many voters supported Governor Fred on account of his artful use of lofty and impressive sounding words that no one actually understood. So Sena's plan was to make everyone understand all the lofty words using her new favorite dictionary, The Immigrant's Guide to Progressive English Vocabulary by H. Kaplan, and thereby expose Governor Fred and reveal his true agenda for the future of the country. I have to admit, at first I was kind of skeptical about this plan. Nonetheless, it was true that the learned Mr. Kaplan's book had certainly taught us some very interesting and useful words, such as humorous, meaning to feel happy or fortunate as a result of being a good person. Crudel and canoodle, meaning to cuddle up close, and canoodle meaning to caress. And my personal favorite, hemi-demi-semiquaver, a very long word for a very short but very beautiful musical note. At last, the man of the hour was announced, and Governor Fred strided out to annoyingly thunderous applause. His immaculate three-piece suit was adorned with a patriotic flag lapel so that everyone would believe he was a great leader. He smiled and waved like an amiable robot, and then, as the live band played nauseatingly cheesy music, he gave his speech. My friends, I am much touched by your esteem, which I will endeavor to live up to. As your president, I will uphold our traditional family values of troglodyte androcracy. I will put a hearty cagmag on every kitchen table and a generous stumer rebate in every bank account. Under my leadership, my fellow Snollagosters on both sides of the aisle will join with me in creative and productive malversation, and a bright new era of cacostocracy will begin. The audience cheered and waved signs saying things like, Fred for Prez, we love you, Fred, and Hans Saganson stinks. They seem to be quite incorrigible in their esteem for Governor Fred, and things look pretty bleak for our client. However, after the speech came the town hall segment, when voters could come to the mic and ask questions, which Governor Fred would then charmingly and eloquently evade. Sena wasted no time in striding up to the mic, like a velociraptor closing in on her prey. Governor Fred, I have a question for you. You said in your speech just now that you would uphold our traditional values of troglodyte androcracy, and that you would put a cagmag on every table and a stumer in every bank account. I'm not sure these good people know what those words mean. Could you explain, please? Governor Fred looked distinctly uneasy. Those are technical government terms, very boring to explain. These people wouldn't be interested. Sena consulted the learned Mr. Kaplan's dictionary. Actually, I think these good people would be very interested to learn that cagmag means bad food, and a stumer is a rubber check. And since a troglodyte is a cave dweller, and androcracy means rule by men, by traditional values, do you mean going back to the time when cavemen dragged their cave women around by the hair? No, of course not. I didn't mean that. And Sena mercilessly plowed on. You said that your fellow Snollagosters would unite in malversation. These are a couple of good ones, since Snollagoster is a corrupt politician with no morals, principles, or convictions whatsoever. And malversation means you will all be corrupt together. No, that's not, I don't mean, I mean, get that damn woman out of here. Governor Fred's cool suavity was quite eroded now, and he looked like a raving lunatic. And you said that you would herald in a bright new era of cacostocracy. She paused for a very effective dramatic effect. Cacostocracy. Government run by the very worst people. There was a terrible silence as the crowd absorbed the terrible truth. Then they began to shout in fury, "We've been tricked! He's a fraud! And to think I donated money and my teddy bear to his campaign! Wait, friends, I can explain! but the crowd would have none of his explanations. Their irate pandemonium was so great that Governor Fred had to make a run for it and leave his famous fried finger foods to rot in the sun. That evening, Sena asked me if she thought that our client, Hans, the much more honest and genuine candidate, would win the election now. I told her quite honestly, well, as the immortal protest song has it, deep in my heart, I do believe. No. But on the other hand, I've proven to be much too pessimistic and cynical in the past. And in any case, if nothing else, we expose one politician's deceptive doublespeak. And at the same time, we learn some very interesting and useful words that no one can spell. My love, I've seen you write. You have trouble spelling words like cat and dog. True, I admitted. But my dear Sena, with having you in my life, I have hopes to improve. She smiled, and we embraced and kissed. And as the stereo played melodic hemi-demi-semi-quavers, I felt distinctly humorous as Sena and I embarked on a romantic evening of extensive croodling and canoodling.